Joining us now to reflect on Minister Jackson Mthembu's contribution is the ANC's chairperson, Gwede Mantashe. Minister, a very good morning to you. You also served in the cabinet that Jackson Mthembu served in. We pull you out of Lekgotla, Minister. It must be a very somber day.
Oli, you know, Jackson has given me the meaning of the word comrade in many ways. I met him in the mid-80s in the Highveld region. He happened to be in NUMSA and I was in the NUM, and he was quite active in the UDF and became the spokesperson of the Eastern Transvaal UDF. And I've been with him all the time. And that has given me the meaning of a comrade, a person who can depend on, a person who tells you upfront in the face what you want to hear and what you don't want to hear. That is the character of Jackson Mthembu. And now I've joined him in the cabinet. We've joined the cabinet together, by the way. Having spent a lot of time with him in Luthuli House, being responsible for communication, I was Secretary General. So we've gone through various stages together to understand each other better. Now we're in the Lekgotla, poorer without Jackson.
Yeah. And Minister, I know we're talking to you in your capacity also as chairperson of the ANC. Please take us into how that meeting started and who's chairing the meeting. Is it the president? How is he feeling at this time?
The meeting is chaired by the chairperson of the ANC. That's why I pleaded with you to move with speed. I'm chairing the meeting. It is a somber meeting where to observe a moment of silence, where to think of Jackson. And he is departing with a number of comrades. You remember Beginduli was just put to rest, and today they are putting to rest Ms. Hermans in Colesberg, who was a former mayor, who's now an MP. So the COVID-19 is devastating us, it's devastating the country, it's making us poorer of ideas.
Minister, and I'm glad you bring up the number of comrades that you have now lost, having you, by the way, having been among the 6 ministers who contracted this COVID-19. Sadly, Jackson Mthembu loses the battle with this COVID-19, but the very government in which you serve, Mr. Mantashe, coming under heavy criticism over the delays, if I could put it that way, over this COVID-19 pandemic. Surely, you've got to move with speed now. I was talking to Ivan Jim just a moment ago. He says this death should galvanize you now to move with speed in order to make sure that not just the most vulnerable are vaccinated, but also it's rolled out to all and sundry.
Can I tell you, Paulie, speed is always a relative term. Move with speed, run faster, slower. It's always a relative term. I think the government is doing what it can to bring vaccine into the country sooner than any time later. Therefore, that's why there's hard work to bring it in January, which we're in the middle of now. If we achieve that objective, that is a movement with relative speed. But one of the things that we should also talk to, Oli, I was in a public hospital in Pretoria when I had COVID, and I spent 9 days there. And I'm encouraging people to use public hospitals because there you are not only dealt with by one specialist or 2, all the disciplines come to you because it's also a point of learning. And they've done good work. I'm very thankful to them. Very thankful to them. They did good work. Actually, when I heard the news of the passing of Comrade Jackson, I asked, in which hospital was he? And I was told he was in military one. Okay, so that is a government hospital. But public hospitals have learned faster on this COVID-19. There are younger people, young professors who are in public hospitals who are putting their effort to change the life. So the health system should be galvanized, it should be supported, it must be given space to deal with complicated matters.
Minister, finally, as I let you go, we have news coming in fact, two very important news. The first one is the President signing into operational the issue of the Political Party Funding Act. And then we also have news coming out of the Pietermaritzburg High Court where Talis and its application to try and have the racketeering charge against them dropped, that has failed. Minister Jackson Mthembu hated corruption. How, in your mind, can the ANC help fulfill his dream of an ANC that will see the back of corruption whenever that will be?
You know, the Chinese describe corruption and factionalism. They say it happens, but it's a rare occurrence, it's an exception. And that is our dream as the ANC, that corruption should be an exception. In other words, that if you are found corrupt, you must be ashamed in the ANC. So as a tribute to Jackson Mthembu, we'll have to defeat corruption. And it will depend on actions we take, the state of the institutions of law enforcement, how free to act with favor, without favor or fear. Now, it will also take a big challenge on them as well to avoid being entangled into all the factional battles that are happening within the political parties. If we succeed in that, we'll defeat corruption.
Minister, I must thank you very much, and of course, Chairperson of the ANC, but it would be remiss of me, Chairperson Mantashe, if I didn't ask you this. I wonder if you've heard the news that the most, I guess, well-known business person in this country, Johan Rupert, the report suggesting that he flew to Switzerland, where he's now gotten his COVID-19 injection or vaccine. How does that sit with you? We know that he's not a government person, but I'm talking about him in the context of the extreme inequalities that have been crystallized by this COVID-19 pandemic.
Now, the point you must appreciate, Cole, is that when you are 66 like me, you become indifferent to things that are inconsequential on the work that government is doing. I would imagine that there are quite a few rich people, black and white, who have gone out of the country to get the vaccine. No noise was done. So when there was a debate on a WhatsApp group, and somebody asked, they said, but there were two black rich people who went to get their vaccine outside of the country. Nobody made noise about it. Why is it an issue when it is Rupert? I tend to say people use their money to save their lives. We can't be an obstacle to that. But we must work hard to bring vaccine to the country, to deal with the inequalities, and then reach out for society. That is our responsibility. What Rupert does with his money, what else is doing with his money, should not be a preoccupation of the state. The state must bring the vaccines to the country, reach out to society, and reach out to the poorest person in society.
Chairperson of the African National Congress and a serving minister in the current administration. Thank you very much, Gwede Mantashe, talking to us there. Well, that's how we wrap up this somber day. And we say thank you to Jackson Mthembu for your contribution to this country.